Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Hope you are all good. Hey Mo, hey Stuart, how are we doing? Good to see you all here. Let us know if you can hear me. I mean, obviously, the first question, I don't want to waste anyone's time rattling on if you can't hear me, so would appreciate that. And just while you're getting around to doing that, another interesting week, really. The first thing we're going to jump into is obviously the fake news spot ETF. We've got a little bit of other news that we're going to cover as well. Have a little dabble at what's been going on in the SVF trial. Have a look at what BTC's doing, and then pick some of the other ones. We do have a few Avenger questions, so I'll pick those up as well a bit later on. But we might as well just dive straight in. I tell you what, before we cut to the other screen, it was just such a weird day yesterday. And now we know that it was fake news. It kind of seems a bit obvious, but for me, I was just sat there, screen open, but I was actually looking at my phone at the time, and I have one of these little widgets on which has the price of Bitcoin, and suddenly it's gone from 27 something to 29,000. Couldn't believe what I was seeing. Went online, and we'll have a look at it a little bit later on, but the entire thing was over. The entire pantomime was up and down in about 15 minutes. So, if you weren't paying attention to your phone at that particular time, then don't exactly kick yourself for it. But it was a bit of an interesting one, and I think the easiest way for us to do it is just have a bit of a look through and see what had happened. So we'll cover price later on. I'll come back to that. But so we just move down a little bit. But as you can see, if you were getting on with your life and didn't happen to be looking at Discord or your phone or Bitcoin's price over the sort of 15-minute period around about 2:30 UK time yesterday, then you might have missed this. But there was a report that was released on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, that effectively said that BlackRock's ETF, iShares Spot Bitcoin ETF, had been approved. And off the back of that, the price of Bitcoin suddenly started to move. Now, what had just transpired, I'd seen it, I posted it on Discord, and I was like, look, the funny thing is, I can't actually see anywhere where this has been verified. What we're seeing at the moment is just people, screenshotting someone else saying that it is approved, and then putting that on Twitter themselves. But for a time, that's exactly what we thought would happen. I should have said it originated from CoinTelegraph, who, I'll be honest, I do use them a lot, so they've got to be semi-trustworthy, but you kind of take a lot of what they report with a pinch of salt, because a lot of their articles are either sponsored articles or they're just lifting quotes from Twitter without any kind of real journalism about it. But to be fair to them, they aren't usually very quick to publicize news. So their Twitter account releases this. So ignore the top one. Unfortunately, CoinTelegraph have actually gone and deleted the tweet, which is probably a sensible thing to do. But the first one that popped down was down at the bottom. And it was around about 2:20. Breaking, SEC approves iShares Bitcoin Spot ETF. Bang, that was it. And off we went. That was then retweeted by a couple of people that I follow. That's when I picked it up. And we went from there. And I've put the Bitcoin chart actually on the sort of the 5-minute chart at the moment, just to kind of see the price of where Bitcoin had done. Now, Bitcoin had actually already made a decent move. So in the morning, it had gone from just above 27,000 all the way up to 28,000. So about an $800 move. And then it'd been meandering around there for a few hours. And then the news breaks, 5-minute candles. So as you know, this had peaked within 10 minutes. The news broke in this candle at sort of 4:20. And then we had this huge shoot up, continued, and we got just under 30,000. So 29,900, give or take, depending on what exchange you're at. And then suddenly the price fell away. And, at the time, we were unsure as to what was causing the price to fall away. And it took a bit more digging until we realized that actually this was fake news. CoinTelegraph had come out. Well, that's not how it broke. I should correct that. People close to BlackRock and people close to the individuals within BlackRock that are dealing with the ETF application spoke to them, and they were like, well, wait a second, we're unaware of this. I mean, it was only a couple of weeks ago, we just got rejected. So if they have approved it, it's news to us. That started to filter down, and then before you knew it, CoinTelegraph had updated their tweet and they'd added comma reportedly. So we were already on a bit of shaky grounds. And then the news came after that. So BlackRock just confirmed to me that this is false. Their application is still under review. And so suddenly the news started spreading that this was fake news. And we started to see that huge correction down. And we corrected to pretty much where we had already got to at the start of the day. So just under 28,000. And then for the rest of the day, we kind of potted in and around there, but we climbed out, climbed away. And we're kind of at a similar, I mean, I forgot this is the 5-minute chart. But we've just been ranging ever since then. So for about, I don't know, 30 hours in and around that 28,300 zone. But the story doesn't unfortunately end there because, you know, ultimately questions do need to be asked. Well, how could a reputable institution such as CoinTelegraph let something be tweeted out? Is it still called a tweet? I don't know. Anyway, tweeted out on X without doing the due diligence and the reference checks that they needed to make sure that it was there. To be fair to CoinTelegraph, they were pretty transparent and they sort of held their hands up relatively quickly after amending the tweet and then deleting the tweets and said they'll do an internal investigation. And we'll get to the findings of that internal investigation a little bit later on. But it does start to call into question then, well, look at the size of this move. Now, I sort of mentioned this so this is a 5-minute chart here. It's obviously on the Binance one. I think mine's on a different one. But you can kind of see the similar level of the move. You can see the sort of the open margin interest just falling away as well. I wonder where my high block one is. But look at this. Look at this high block. It's kind of zoomed in at the moment. So I'm just getting pings all the time because I haven't turned off streamer mode, or I haven't turned on streamer mode. So it's a bit off-putting. But we can see this climb up here, and just look at how much it took out here. Now, depending on which data you look at, the data rate is pretty significant range, I'll be honest. There's anywhere up to $670 million worth of BTC shorts that had been liquidated, suddenly positions closed. But other people saying a bit more conservative in inverted commas, of only 100 million. But within 10 minutes, we saw the effect that this had had. And that does beg to question now, as I've put in the poll, was this a genuine mistake, or has someone done this and they've been shady as hell, and they've been playing the market? Now, plenty of speculation, as you would expect, on the likes of Twitter, suggesting that an intern in CoinTelegraph may well have decided to bet his life savings on this and just had access to a tweet and was able to manipulate it. I wouldn't say we'll never know. We may find that out, but at this moment in time, we don't know. But what I did think was quite amusing, and I don't have, let's see if I can find it from Rollbit. Some absolute ratioing from Rollbit. I'm going to have to scroll down to this. I might not be able to find it, just because they've obviously tweeted a lot since then. Perhaps not then. We'll just go to what I was on before. So Rollbit, they actually tweeted out this screenshot. I think it is fake, but notice here, they asked the question of, whether or not this was them that placed this trade. Someone's obviously baked in the username here, but look at the entry price, the amount they waged, the multiplier, and then the exit price, which is pretty much where it was. And they had a 4,500% gain there. So great little bit of publicity from Rollbit there, but it does beg the question that plenty of people could have quite conceivably done this. And we've talked about market makers all the time using news to manipulate markets. Now, we'll go into the CoinTelegraph investigation in a little bit of time. You'll see that they use a Telegram channel in which they do get a lot of their information. They should verify it. And then it does question, I know that other people have talked about, if you had a large amount of money, could you be manipulating news outlets and all of that kind of stuff? And it kind of feels, well, it wouldn't have taken that much to actually get someone who could be claimed as a source to then just go to something like this, find a vulnerable weakness, get that tweeted out, knowing that the word Spot ETF or Bitcoin Spot ETF, particularly BlackRock's, is going to be a highly emotive piece of news, which would drive the price up, whether or not it was true or not. And that's the point, isn't it? is that the immense wave of relief that came out from that initial news, later to be confirmed as fake news, drove that price up from 27,000 all the way up to 30,000. We're talking about 10-11% increase in 10 minutes. And the only reason it seemed to slow down was, quite rightly, people were asking the question, where's the verification? I mean, I went on the SEC website, I couldn't see it. I went on just about every news outlet I possibly could. I was at my daughter's Harvest Festival, so there I am trying to pretend to watch my daughter sing and all of that. And really, I'm like, not quite sweating, but I'm searching as fast as I can to try and see what we can find. And you just couldn't find anything, which is strange for something like that. No announcement from BlackRock. You think they'd be all over that. And whilst initially, I must admit, well, perhaps something will be coming in the hours to come. Someone just got an advance warning. The fact actually that we start to get that verification kind of says to me, it does feel like someone has manipulated this, driven the price up, and then conveniently being able to let the world know, well, actually, this is fake news. They've already done what they need to do. And you just imagine the amount of longs that have now been placed. I mean, we go back here, and I mean, these lines are getting greener and yellower from this point onwards because people are getting euphoric. They're building up these positions now. And that is now also creating a potential imbalance. We've not looked at the delta, but a potential imbalance in which the market makers may look to try and take those out as well. So whoever's done this has done this very well. And there's definitely a lack of interest in shorting since that time because there's just no build-up within this zone, which is quite interesting to see. Right, but let's get into the CoinTelegraph investigation, which they put out here. So you can go and have a look yourself. They give a little bit of a grateful for your support. We strive to deliver the most thoughtful, engaging, and impactful news affecting the crypto space. To talk about the event that happened today, which basically just said that prior to editorial approval, someone tweeted out the United States Securities and Exchange Commission had approved BlackRock's iShares Spot Bitcoin exchange traded fund. This was false and result of misinformation. Fine, okay, but we want to know the details. So they do provide a timeline of events. So this is at 13:17 UTC. Just remember, that is we're on British summertime at the moment. So this is actually 2:17 in the afternoon. Editorial team was alerted to a rumor news that a Telegram channel that CoinTelegraph employees use to discover stories that might be of interest to readers. The full conversation is shared below. They have redacted names, which I understand, but forward message at 13:17. SEC approves iShares Bitcoin Spot ETF, BBG. Don't know what BBG means, but there we go. Lol, I know you know. Is that from the terminal? Bloomberg. I think it's someone that's claimed it come from the Bloomberg terminal. That's the question they were asking. No, it hasn't come out yet. Not on Bloomberg website yet. Could be from the terminal. Might be MB. Might be scam. Let me see. Okay. Question. So they've already put the tweet out. That's the interesting thing. And now we're at 13:13. 13:25 is when I put it out. Okay, but now we're at 13:31, and they're still forwarding these messages. And they're sort of talking. Wait a second, actually, we've been chatting internally. My colleague jumped too fast, so I'm down here at the moment. Yes, but it's true. Look at BTC charts. So now someone, whoever they're talking to, is having that conversation. Say, look, we're moving the price upwards. Yep, seeing that. There's another tweet here. I believe this to be fake news. This is where people are starting to question it. There's loads of people that are starting to question it now. While it would be positive, we'll come back to how this could affect things in the future a little bit later on. Where did you get this, please? We can't conform it. Someone else has jumped in. Would be a shame if everybody just starts copy pasting us without proofs. And that's the problem, isn't it? Is when you are supposedly an authority in the industry, people are going to respect your calls, and I think that's the worry we have now. Now, if you remember in Discord, certainly for myself, trying to cover my back here, obviously, but we were announcing it here. Makes sense and you drop where I put it. However, what am I talking about here? Why did I announce it? Was it in this one? Seems the market found not to appeal. Asked them not to appeal it. I need confirming. This is it. This was announced, but SEC approved. So we straight away, it's great to see it, but there wasn't anyone actually confirming it. Still need verifying. I'm still searching for it. Can't find it. If true, still searching. Can't find it. Talking about it there, and I think we get to Here we go, Bijan. So it comes out 30 minutes later. It is fake news, and I think I sort of follow in afterwards. And the point there, I think I'm just trying to make is, doesn't matter how positive or negative the news is, and certainly what I try and do anyway, having no journalistic background whatsoever, is just try and find at least one or two sources that are proving it, because someone on Twitter can do it. And for any of you that actually studied the thumbnail that I created, you can just create thumbnails. It's crazy. You can just create tweets now. Tweet generate, you can just type in whatever you want, and then you can just screenshot and post it. That's what I did. I used the exact username, the exact name, the exact logo, all that kind of stuff. So this stuff is very easy to fake, unfortunately, at the moment. So we have to just be quite diligent in what we're doing. Not it's only ourselves that we're going to impact, but we also want to we're a community. We don't want to be messing each other around, and I certainly don't want to be jumping off the back of things. As exciting as that news potentially could be, I'm not going to act until I can actually see some proof on it. And that may mean that I ultimately end up missing some of the move, but we'll talk about how that move could have played out in a moment. So anyway, they sort of continue just having this discussion. They kind of finally realize it might actually be fake news. And then whoever the original account that they sent it to deleted that account. So this conversation they've been having with whoever it is, that account's now deleted apparently. So then it just goes through. I'm not necessarily going to sort of go through every single one of these, but they effectively detail what happened following this. So, that whole conversation goes over on the Telegram for over 30 minutes, but the little time gaps here are then the employees taking that information and then chatting amongst themselves and how it gets pushed out. And they kind of run through all of that, and it goes there. So, a complete and utter shame that, and if anyone was caught out either buying an altcoin or a Bitcoin at the top of it, then I'm sorry for you. If you've got a Bitcoin, I'm sure it's not going to be the end of the world, because I do expect us to beat those prices. So at some stage, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But yeah, it is unfortunate. What I will take from this though, a positive and a negative, if you will, was even on the rumor of it, we've been flat, really flat. And okay, the 5-minute chart probably doesn't do us any justice on this, but if we put it back on the daily, we've just been ranging for quite some time now. And yeah, okay, we might have gone down to 25 and we might have gone up to 30, but we've been in that range. But off that news, over a 10-minute period before we even managed to correct ourselves, the level of interest, the level of excitement, and I suppose pent up pressure or anxiety or whatever, that release of it, and we could just see the impact that it was going to have. Now, I can only imagine what will happen. I'm very confident at some stage we will see a spot ETF. I think the next due dates for those are the beginning of the year, though, so the SEC doesn't have to make a decision until 2024. But what I can see is that when we do get that news, confirmation from the likes of BlackRock and the SEC that a spot ETF has been approved, I can see, a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 candle easily within the day. We've seen them in the last bull runs, of course, but I can certainly see a piece of news like that just getting everybody incredibly excited. And if a fake piece of news can push the price to $3,000, then you know that the real news could do a lot more. But what I would say about what went on in that 5-minute period, let's just presume it was genuine. Hard to, I know. But let's just say that matters did actually go out as they did. We saw an unconfirmed report push the price up, which I think whenever this happens, something similar is gonna come out. A leak will probably come out so that the market makers can take advantage of it. So I think a leak will come out, which will move the price. And you may miss that move. The key then is, I think we'll probably see some form of retracement. This is quick moves I'm talking about. Very similar to what we see here. Maybe not a full 100% retracement, but a partial retracement. And then when the formal confirmation of the ETF happens, I think we'll see a second move north. And so, what you could consider potentially doing is, if you happen to see the first move, you don't want to be jumping in necessarily on it, because it's always bad news to jump in on a calendar. But maybe you can move some funds towards an exchange in which it frees up an opportunity for buying some Bitcoin for that second wave, or that pullback before getting into the second wave and being in that position. Now, by January, I would consider myself to be quite significantly in the market. So, hopefully by then I've got a decent allocation of Bitcoin. It won't necessarily be a problem. But, if you're still sat on the sideline and when that hits, yes, that's going to feel like it stings, but it wouldn't necessarily be the end of the world either. An ETF is only going to produce the opportunity for more investment, more funds to come into the crypto space. And so, yeah, you may miss that initial move. All I'd say is just, hold your horses, wait for things to settle down, and then get back in. Buying while the candle is green and climbing is very tough. Just saying, there's some poor sucker that bought at 29,901. He bought the very top. Someone must have done it to set that price, and then all that's happened is it's just dropped away. So don't be that person. Just give yourself a bit of time, even if the retracement's only a little bit. Let it settle down, and then get back in. Emotions when that happened, I think will run high. I'll be honest, when I first saw it, I was pretty excited. Yes, I was wanting to confirm it, but I thought that's going to be fantastic news, if true. So when we do get the one which is true, then I think, there'll be a very nice euphoric moment. How long it lasts, I don't know. But if you've missed that move up, just wait for that honeymoon period to wash off. We will see some form of a retracement and then look to get in. What's the bad side of it? I think there is a problem with it, and it's this here. So this is the SEC's reasoning as to why they're not particularly happy about providing Bitcoin spot ETFs. It's been out for months. This is like just their usual rhetoric when they reject it. And unfortunately, we've got number 5. Number 5 down here. Trading based on material, non-public information, including the dissemination of false and misleading information. Now, that's the worry, isn't it? Has this piece of information, is this news just gone and given the SEC another little get out of jail free card? Because they're like, look, you guys, you utter suckers. You jump at the first piece of fake news there is, and off you go. Now, you could arguably counter that by saying, well, actually, by approving the spot ETFs, you are going to provide some legitimacy to the market and be able to reduce that kind of stuff. But if they wanted to, they could just be, guys, 3 or 4 weeks ago, you fell for this hook, line, and sinker, hundreds of millions of dollars worth wiped off the table. We're out here to protect retailers from fake news. And so this is something that we need to, have more reassurance about before we can go forward. And I don't know if that's what, they can then follow on, but we can't ignore that. Despite other good news with the likes of the SEC not pursuing grayscale and wanting to, rationale behind why they couldn't convert their GBTC into a spot ETF, etc., all that kind of stuff, which happened last week, which I was going to talk about, but hey, what's the point now? We've had this. Great news, great victories against the Ripple as well. But when activities like this still happen, it still gives the SEC a get out of jail free card, in my opinion. So, yeah, it was an exciting day. It was nice to see Bitcoin's price move like that. It was nice to see it has the ability to have those legs. Not so great to see the red, but that's probably because I would have been quite content with it staying up there. I didn't really do anything. I actually did buy some DOT yesterday, but it was prior to this pump happening. And to be honest, altcoins, they kind of bled. Everyone was just moving money into Bitcoin. So I don't really feel like I got hit with any particular pump or dump necessarily. Within the DOT side of things, it did happen prior to that, but 24 hours later, and the price of DOT is lower than what I bought it yesterday. So that was just I wanted to buy some at the levels it was at. But yeah, it's nice to see that Bitcoin has the ability to do that. It gives me reassurance in the future. It gives me hope that when this finally does happen, it's going to give an opportunity for retail to actually come back aggressively, and that should hopefully help us going forward. Just want to see if there's any questions or comments, not necessarily on the poll. Let's have a look. So one person thinks a genuine mistake, and the rest of you think it was shady as hell. I don't really have much faith in humanity, I'm afraid. So I'm going with the shadiness as well. Whether or not it was an individual employee that was looking to take advantage of that, or if it was an external force that just happened to find a sucker in CoinTelegraph to be able to take advantage of themselves. That's kind of how I feel it is. The fact that it was up and down so quickly, so well coordinated, with just enough belief to start off with, and then just so happens that someone's been able to get hold of BlackRock within 20 minutes and knock that down, and that's sort of the follow through. Seems well orchestrated to me. That's just my opinion on that one. Right, let's have a look at some other news. Since we got here, Grayscale. Do you know what? Annoyingly, hey there, Reese. I have just gone and closed. I'm going to come back to the Grayscale story. I'm just going to move this over to here because I had a document over which just had a few little notes about how Grayscale's GBTC is formed. So we'll come back to that one, but an interesting one in just the level of the discounts. Let's just have a look at some of the other stuff. So another double trouble for Binance, and one of them, unfortunately, is impacting the UK. So the FCA, we know, imposed new restrictions. That's why Bybit got the hell out of Dodge, and Binance had to change a few things. They had to jump through a few hoops, but actually they have fallen short, and because of that, they've effectively decided they will not be onboarding any new UK users. Now, I can't believe that anyone in the group doesn't already have a Binance account, but if you don't and you're based in the UK, unfortunately, you're going to have to find somewhere else for the time being. But effectively, it comes out because to meet some of the rules that were set out in the FCA's amendment to the current law or regulation, they needed a partner, a third-party partner, and they had chosen this company called rebuildingsociety.com Limited. Initially, the FCA gave Binance a thumbs up on that. However, after some more scrutiny, the FCA determined that the company that Binance had used had effectively failed their criteria, and so Binance were no longer allowed to use them. Now, because they entered into good faith with the FCA, the FCA sort of made a statement that basically said anyone that's looking to try and meet our requirements, back when we introduced this on the 8th, was it the 8th of October? They would have until the 8th of January 2024 to comply with them all. So I think that's why Binance is still allowed to operate at the moment. They are actively seeking to find another partner to sort of overcome these hurdles. They are engaging with the FCA to do that. So it's not necessarily bad news for us. As soon as I heard that, I got an email from Binance. Any of you that do have a Binance account, you probably got an email yourself. I immediately removed everything that I had off Binance. So not because I was worried that they were going to shut it down. I just was like, it's just a nice, healthy reminder that I've got some stuff on it in exchange. I'm going to move it. And so I did. And so everything's back in cold storage. And a couple of the questions about cold storage, we'll cover that later on. I don't think there's really too much more to say about that. There's no timescale for when they're going to turn it around. We obviously know there's the 8th of January. Whether or not there's an ability to extend from that, I have no idea. But we'll just have to wait and see. For those of you that had already registered your Binance account, we haven't actually been on it in a couple of weeks. When you go on, you will need to undertake a new questionnaire to understand your experience as an investor. I just went with, I'm a retail investor. Just answer the questions. You have to get like 3 out of 6 right. Not particularly difficult, but you will need to do it to gain access to anything. And I would suggest, even if you have no intention of buying, just get that out of the way, get it done, get it approved, because if the rules suddenly change again and they decide that anyone that hasn't bothered carrying that out is going to have their account closed, you might be left the wrong side of it. So you might as well just log on. It took me less than 5 minutes. Okay. The other bit of news for Binance, which doesn't affect us, although we've already had this in the UK, is that the Binance US has halted any direct dollar withdrawals. So not stablecoin withdrawals, but USD withdrawals back to your bank account or whatever. Now, does this mean that Binance is going under? Not necessarily, but it's just another kind of restriction that has been placed on them. They are a separate entity to Binance themselves. So, how that relationship really works, I don't think anybody knows. I think that's one of the big FUD items out there. But effectively, the news was announced, I think it was today, that Binance US halts any USD withdrawals. As I mentioned on Discord, classic CZ, he just had a photo of himself with 4 fingers up, just saying 4 as if this was FUD. It's not FUD because it is true. Whether or not it has any lasting implications, who knows? As I said, we've had it in the UK where GBP has been allowed and then withdrawn and then allowed again and then withdrawn. So it's all about similar things like who they partner up with to handle the transfers of the fiat And I think at the time in the UK, it was done by Strike or someone, and then the FCA didn't like them, and so that's why I got held back again. So we'll just keep on monitoring. I mean, any bit of FUD that I see with Binance, although I'm not stopping using Binance, I just think it's worth just sharing it. I mentioned last week that we have that situation at the moment where we're just getting so much little bit of news that on their own we reject them. But is this just a massive wave of stuff that's coming, and things like FTX and that, they just scar you into just, having to always have your backup, I suppose, looking over your shoulder, whatever analogy you want to use. And I think that's just the best way to be with it. What we got here? Okay. I will come back to the Grayscale one in a moment. That's kind of all the news I've got at the moment. There's no comments right now. So once I was doing my scroll through Twitter, something came up, and I've mentioned this before. It won't take long to go through. But I just want to reiterate, because I think it's one of the most fundamental things that Simon and I disagree about. And that's not necessarily a problem, and it doesn't mean necessarily an end of a friendship. But it's about hash rate. And I know a lot of you are on the Casper boat, and a lot of you are seeing that the price of Casper is kind of stalling at the moment. It's not really going up or down, but it's not doing much. But the hash rate is just going astronomically up. And I know that the comment from Simon has always been that an increase in hash rate, what was the word I'm looking for? Predates or happens before an automatic increase in price. And as I mentioned a couple of months ago, that just isn't the case. When you look at the data, it is not the case. And I saw that Simon mentioned it either last trading pub or last week at some stage. Exactly again. And we've just gone over 50 pH for hash rate in Casper at the moment. So it is climbing astronomically. But I just wanted to have a look at Bitcoin. This is the gentleman on Twitter that drew my attention, Charles Edward. I didn't actually follow this guy. I don't know why he popped up on there. But it was just mentioning that Bitcoin's hash rate is going absolutely bonkers. It's up 3x since 68K. Levels of investment is insane. Normal HR growth drops in a bear market, and this is the first time it's increased. Hash rate, that is. This is a step change in mining industrialization. Energy companies and governments are here. So he's sort of looking at it from the positive side of things of, back in the time when I'll click on the picture again, 68K, we were standing at around about 165,000 terahash scores or whatever it is. And what we're looking at the moment is we're over 450 terahash scores. But the point that I'm necessarily trying to make is look at the price though. Hash rate is 3x'd. And we've lost, at one stage, 70% of the Bitcoin value. Yes, we recovered that, but we're still over 50% down from where we were. And it's just another example that actually hash rate can keep on going up, price can keep on going down. So if that's one of the major strings that you've got in your bow as to where things are going, or if you're still sitting on the fence and you don't know whether or not now's the right time to move in, I'm just trying to present you with another option here to say, well, actually, just because hash rate's going up doesn't mean that price does. And if the king can't do it, it doesn't mean that many others can as well. I had got it open in CoinGlass. CoinGlass? Bloody hell. Glassnode to kind of show a similar thing. So, back up here when it was 68,000, it was 145. And now that we're down at 26 or 27,000, so obviously, there we go, 28,500. We're at 413, so dropped a little bit from where it was. But you can kind of see the same levels there. So this day is a little bit more accurate because it's as of yesterday. Well, I think this one was the 13th, so a couple of days ago. And we know it moves. Now, I get it. Over a long enough time frame, then absolutely. But you can even see here, this how this curve of price is taken out. Yes, this is going up, but it's getting flatter and flatter as this is going up more drastically. So, it said chat had disconnected, but it has successfully reconnected. So hopefully you're all still there. But yeah, that was just my 2 cents. Don't want to really waste anyone's more time on that unless people have questions. Reese, but where's the best place to get yield from BTC holdings longer term without compromise on security? I don't know of anywhere, I'll be honest. I mean, it's a mineable token rather than, you're getting any staking rewards or anything like that. So really what you're doing is you're going to have to put it on an exchange, I would suggest. So maybe try and find one that's you trust. But typically, they're not great. It's like less than 1% you're getting. And for me, is the risk to reward really there for it? I kind of have to say no. Leaving such a prized asset like Bitcoin on an exchange for them to just go and do whatever they want to do and promise I'll pay you it back in a few years' time or whenever you want it back. It just, yeah, it unnerves me. Just 'cause it's, it's such a sought after commodity. Oh, commodity is probably right that term. We don't have a commodity or a security, do we really? But you get the point. So I don't actually know of anywhere, Reese. And without compromising on security, I really don't know of anywhere. So maybe you could wrap it. So you could wrap your Bitcoin, and then you could send that somewhere else. It's not real Bitcoin then, but you then got the opportunity to use the likes of MetaMask, and maybe then you can find somewhere where you can offer some of the yields. Some DeFi protocols could be useful. Right. Bijan's put, I think XRT member Craig made a good point that there are many proof of work tokens in 2017 bull run died due to too many halvings in a short time and a super high hash rates. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that there. I think it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I would definitely consider myself an amateur miner. Mine was just a 6 graphic card rig when I had it. But, a lot, Casper being very well marketed, particularly with miners. And so a lot of these tokens, these mining rigs were sold in advance of stuff. People are obviously going to plug them in. And we're just getting to the back end of those orders being fulfilled at the moment. They all sold out. So yeah, I'm expecting hash rate to keep on going up. But it is stalling, Now that's great for those that started at the beginning, but these big boys with these ASICs, that have come in late, they need to pay them off. That's the reality of it. So it's a lot easier for the guys who have been mining for a year now because they've got bag loads of the stuff and they bought it so cheap that they don't have to sell that much to meet their operational costs. But people who are starting now, they do. And so, yeah. Bijan Zempo, you can't get a yield on BTC holding without compromising security. There you go. High hash rate could mean miners are desperate to recoup their losses on equipment and could be forced to dump soon. So I suppose the other thing with the hash rate, with Bitcoin, obviously you've got block rewards every 10 minutes in theory, and it's 6.25 Bitcoin for when you do it. Now, it's very rare that we find an article where an individual has managed to win the reward. It does happen, but generally it's pools that win it. With Casper, as I'm not aware there's many pools. I'm sure there will be some pools, of course there will. But I think the fact that there is a block reward every second, there's plenty to go around. But actually, that will, as the hash rate goes up and up and up, that will reduce, and suddenly people won't be winning, one every 5 minutes because 5 minutes has been 300 of them or whatever. People might be winning fewer and fewer each day, and then suddenly they are realizing that they have to cost it. Now, I did join when I did my video on Casper. I did join the Casper groups, and at the time in sort of July and August, I think KS3 was bringing in like $3,000 a week, so you were paying it off within a couple of months. That's now dropped to less than $200 in a week you're bringing in. So yes, the price of the rigs do drop as well, but if you were one of those suckers that unfortunately got the order that didn't ship in time and you still paid 50 grand for it, then yeah, that's a big payoff, and ultimately you do have to pay it off, and so people will just be selling. That might be why we're seeing like just a bit more of a flat line in the price over the last few weeks, just because there's a real balance between buyers and sellers at the moment. Excuse me. But, and we'll get onto it later, Casper's price has moved fairly decently since then. Right, okay. So let's have a chat about Mr. Tacos. I have a few safer solutions, Harry. I'll talk to you about it this week. Okay. Right, let's talk about SBF and his trial. Again, some interesting updates. I think this was one of the weeks that people were really into. Everything you need to know about the second trial is a little video on it here if you want to have a look at it. But I've tried to transcribe as much of the details as I can, and then also from other articles. And so pretty similar form to what I did with week one. I'm just bringing it on week two. And the big thing about week two, and she actually did get on the stand last Tuesday, but because we were live at the time, I didn't bother reporting on it. It's Caroline Ellison's turn, or it has been her turn, to testify. Now, for those of you that don't know who she is, I'm sure most of you probably will. She was the I didn't put it in here, but the co-CEO of Alameda Research and the on-off girlfriend of Sam Bankman-Fried. So She's testified. Rashid Singh, who was also one of the founding executives of FTX, he has also testified. I think his testimony is still going on today. I think it is. I think the defense might be having a go at him today. But he certainly has been testifying. There's been a few other people which do have names, but they're not high flyers. They're just like technicians or whatever that have also testified. But we've had some hell of some bombshells here. And for all intents and purposes, I don't think that this has been a great week for Sam in terms of what's come out, both from a character point of view and also in argument to his defense. So let's just try and break down some of the things that Caroline has testified to, admitted to, whatever you want to call it, whilst under questioning. And they're in no necessarily particular order, and they're not sectioned out of whether or not it's the prosecutors or the defense that were asking the questions. It's just the information that's come out. So quite early on in her testimony, the prosecutor got her to admit to the fraud charges, which is what happened last week as well. We know that Caroline, Gary, and Rashid Singh have been working with the DOJ, we presume for lighter sentencing whenever it's their time. So yeah, they just got that on the record straight away. She also testified pretty much straight out of the bat. Again, destroying that image that SBF had that he was unaware of all these activities taking place. Caroline testified that she did knowingly manipulate Alameda Research's balance sheets. And actually, it was Sam that directed her to do that. And while she may have felt uncomfortable, she did it. She went on to explain that at one stage, there were up to 7 versions of the balance sheet that they were using and passing between important customers, VIP customers, potential investors, and staff members to effectively try and hide how much of the funds Alameda Research had misappropriated from FTX customers. Again, Caroline states that this was at the request of Sam, so he wanted her to create different versions of it, try and create that misunderstanding, etc. So again, just saying he was fully aware. She also then confessed, admitted, whatever you want to call it, that even at the time when she's doing this, she knew the actions were fraudulent, which I think is a big thing. It doesn't matter. Ignorance of the law is no defense. But outright admitting that you knew it was fraudulent at the time you were doing it is a nail in the coffin. And so it's sort of just helping to build that picture for the jurors, and that's it. It's a jury trial at the end of the day, and the prosecutors have got to convince the jurors that this guy was a bad guy. And if they can't do that, then he might get off. I mean, he won't get off, but he might get a lesser sentence. Anyway, Caroline also confirmed that Alameda Research, stole, that's the term she used, appropriated, misappropriated, borrowed, whatever you want to claim it to be, billions of dollars worth of FTX's funds, which we kind of knew about. But actually, worse than that, they were put into failed investment strategies, which we talked about last week, but also to buy influence with politicians. And I think I put this a bit further down because it comes under the Rashid Singh element. But effectively, Rashid, he admitted that it got to such a point with political contributions that he was just writing he was signing stacks of blank checks from his Wells Fargo account, and then he was giving them to Sam Bankman-Fried's brother, who was then effectively just handing out these political donations as he saw fit. Now, to make another string to the bow, they were utilizing Sam's mum's political contribution firm to make these donations. So, I mean, this was a real family business of stuff here, which again, it's dragging in more people here now. There's already been questions that have been asked about Sam's mum and dad, who I both believe were lecturers, legal lecturers or lawyers that taught in university. So they kind of know the law. But yeah, they obviously just thought they could get around all of it. That's me making my opinion there. He said that at one stage she realized that Alameda Research had actually borrowed, in inverted commas, nearly 3/4 of all of FTX's customer funds. And yeah, that's how much of a hole they had made. Again, we go down to what Rashid had said, I think it's either Friday or yesterday. He had a bit of a decent conversation with Sam in the summer of 2022, prior to the fall, where Sam admitted that they'd borrowed over $13 billion worth of FTX's funds. And that's a figure we've known about for some time. We've also known that they only had $5 billion in assets to pay that back. Hence the $8 billion shortfall, which we've been kicking around for about a year at the moment. We kind of know where that was. But again, we've got one of the most senior FTX executives testifying that Sam openly told him this in a conversation. And we'll get to a bit more detail in the sheet's testimony a little bit later on. They went into, obviously to try and understand the character, they went in to talk about her relationship with Sam, this on-off relationship. She even had, the FBI confiscated documents back in December 2002. So a lot of them were to do with the fraudulent activities. One of them was effectively a list of all the things that trigger Sam. So he was getting, angry at any bad press would trigger him. And so, Caroline was effectively just keeping a list so that she could try and avoid winding him up and, try and make her time with him a little bit better. Sam apparently would get wound up with how successful Binance were and how well they were doing. And a lot of, like it says in here, a lot of FUD that was created around Binance was Sam's attempt to try and, cause the collapse of Binance so that their customers would flock to FTX, who were the second largest exchange, which would then help him build that shortfall, reduce that shortfall. But yeah, there's quite a few things in that document, which is just embarrassing, really. Your girlfriend keeps a list of, actually, I'm so sure my wife keeps a list of all the things that piss me off. But for it to be read out in court, never a great thing. Caroline also confirmed that Sam Bankman-Fried was in discussions with the Saudi prince, Mohammed bin Salman, to effectively prop up FTX in the back end of the days, just prior to when they declared bankruptcy. She also mentioned, I don't know if I misread this, maybe I did, that MBS was regularly briefed on the situation about Alameda Research and how much money it had drawn out of FTX customers. So I don't know if that's what put him off, or he just wasn't interested in the first place, but I think I read that correctly. So if I haven't, apologize there. And then we get to some of the more interesting stories. Excuse me. So Caroline testified. Sorry, I've just got to mute. No one wants me coughing down the microphone. That they had attempted, Alameda Research had tried to bribe Chinese officials to gain access to $1 billion worth of assets, which had been frozen due to on Huawei and OKX, as they were locked up following a money laundering investigation in China. So interesting that, bribing Chinese officials, I just thought that was, something that happened all the time, but they failed to even do that. I will just put a note, and I put it in brackets here, that don't know the circumstances of why, because I wasn't in the court, but the judge did actually note that this claim was to be struck off the record, which basically means that the jurors can't use that when they're contemplating the evidence. But it was out there, and I don't know if it was just a prosecutor's, he knew it was going to happen, that it'd get struck off because it's got nothing to do with these, but he just wanted it out there to just show them the amount of shady shit that these guys were up to. But yeah, they were trying to bribe Chinese officials, apparently. Because that attempt failed, this is my favorite. Alameda Research apparently paid Thai prostitutes, you read that correctly, or you heard that correctly, to open accounts on OKX and Huobi. And then they were giving them trading strategies. This firm that couldn't trade for their life, losing $500,000 a day minimum, were giving trading strategies to Thai prostitutes in an effort to drain the $1 billion worth of locked funds out of these accounts. Now, I don't know how successful they were. I'm going to suggest not very, but I just love the imagination of it. I wish I could have been there to just be like, I can just see them on their balcony, probably high on drugs or whatever they were doing, kicking around some ideas, and someone was like, you know what? Let's use Thai prostitutes. That'll work. I don't know. Maybe they went on to WeWork or whatever. And yeah, just have a look at it. But good stuff nonetheless. You've got to tip their hats for out-of-the-box thinking, if nothing else. And then I don't think this came as any surprise, but for those of you that weren't around in the group when this happened, or just can't remember because it's so long ago, One of the more interesting things that came out when the bankruptcy lawyers took over FTX was that their accountancy firm didn't exist in the real world. It was in the metaverse, which, just crazy millennials thinking that they could run the world type thing. I'd obviously just thought that would be a good idea. But we get a bit of understanding behind this now, because Caroline's actually come out and said that for 2 years straight, the Alameda Research struggled to get any formal sign off of an audit. So they would get load of accountants in throughout 21, 22. They would open up the books to them, but then accountants either couldn't or wouldn't provide a formal audit of the firms once they'd reviewed the books. Which kind of, telltale sign. There must have been plenty of people out there that knew this shitstorm was coming this way. But yeah, so that's why we weren't seeing any of those. Probably why they had to reach out to the metaverse in the first place. And actually, it was just an FTX. Bear in mind, there was, there's supposed to be a Chinese wall, if nothing else, but there's no conversation whatsoever between these two. But originally, because they couldn't do it, it was just an FTX staffer that was preparing Alameda Research's balance sheets originally. But then Caroline, with a maths degree or whatever, decided that she'd take over doing it. And that's where it is. Now, this next one, I'm not doing it to have a dig at her necessarily, but she did, like, at times on the stand, from what I've read and what I've watched, she was quite open, quite jovial and banterish, and being able to have a conversation. But there were a couple of occasions where she did completely break down, particularly when talking about the days just prior to the collapse. Now, the reason I mention this is actually a lot of people that are in the court, these people have gone to watch it and report on it, that they are definitely of a mindset that all these parties are guilty. She is just as up there and as culpable as SBF in terms of levels of hatred and accountability. But they were saying that actually it was that hard, that aggressive, probably the lines of questioning and just that severe, the breakdown, that they felt genuinely upset for her. And it's quite interesting when, that dynamic of you go in thinking you're absolutely going to hate someone, and then, you see them reduced to whatever it is, and you just can't help but feel sorry for them. So it was just an interesting sort of take, humanity side of it, I suppose. But she did go on to talk about just the levels of anxiety she was going over, particularly towards the end. She felt the collapse was happening, and then that wave of relief almost when it was all out there. She was like, right, there's nothing I can do now. I'm not hiding anything anymore, and off we go. So she's done now. She's done her testimony. She was on the stand for about 3 days. I didn't mention, but the judge commented, not written it down, sorry, the judge did comment several times that when the defense solicitors or lawyers were having a go, they were not incoherent, but they were taking a long time to get questions out, a bit like I am here. They were going off the point quite a bit, and it's something that we mentioned last week, and I still think that's their tactic. It's not that they're dumb, it's not that they don't know what to ask, but at the end of the day, they're just trying to confuse. So they're trying to move away from probably the very simple points to bring out technical points maybe she couldn't answer, to try and confuse the jurors or bore them, send them to sleep, whatever. Because, as I say, they've got to be able to prove that he's guilty. And if they can just throw enough shit around, some of it will hopefully stick. Anyway, Naseed Singh is on the stand at the moment. So only a couple of things really come out. So he pled guilty as well to the fraud activities. He mentioned that actually, although he'd been there from the beginning, been working away, he wasn't aware of any relationship between FTX and Alameda Research, certainly the levels of toxicity of that relationship, until September 2022. Now, if you think the collapse happened in November and the shit hit the fan end of October, that feels pretty close. These guys all lived together in a penthouse in the Bahamas. So whether or not I believe that one, but that's what he's sworn on the stand. I have to wait and see what the defense say about that one. He admitted to changing key lines of text and code, which basically gave Alameda Research the ability to have access to FTX customers' accounts, and also that inability to be liquidated. He mentioned that was on the request of Sam Bankman-Fried, that he was to do that. So again, Sam is not blind to any of this. He's the one giving out the orders. this one came up by a few people that he's actually very good on the stand. He's very good at telling a story, and he seems to be really engaging with the jurors. And so the prosecution seems to be going at great lengths to get him to just explain what's happening and anecdotal stories, etc., which I'm sure the defense are getting pretty pissed off about. But again, it is very confusing and complicated information that is being talked about, and we know some of it because we're into crypto, but a lot of these people won't be. They've just been picked off the street. Maybe not the street, but you know what I mean. And so to have someone that can tell a story, have someone that can break complex information down into simple information is going to really help the prosecution. So from what I understand, he's been doing a very good job of that. As I mentioned, the political contributions and the difference in the funds with a couple of other things. A couple of other key things that have come about this week. The defense made an application to the judge that Sam was allowed his ADHD medication because he's struggling at the moment that he's not having it, and they're wondering whether or not he should go to the stand if he doesn't have it. Now the doctor rejected it because he's like, look, unless you provide, sorry, the judge rejected it because he's like, you haven't got a doctor's note to say he absolutely needs it, so unless I get that, not having it. We'll see what happens coming from there. I talked about the FBI season diaries. I put dairies there, I think. Never mind. From Caroline. So yeah, some of the other stuff is a bit interesting. So do you remember the day after FTX went into bankruptcy, there was a hack. Someone had access to their hot wallets and took $400 million. I think it was like 65,000 Ethereum. Well, last week that started moving again. So interesting. That's the week they decided to make it move. Now, we still actually don't know who it was. No one's caught the suspects or anything. People are thinking it was Gary Wang from FTX. Some people are saying it's North Korean. Some people are saying it's Russian cyber criminals. We don't necessarily know, but I just thought it was quite amusing. Not amusing, sorry. Interesting that of all the weeks to try and then wash this money, that's where we're going now. That wasn't brought up in the court. That was just a side note. One of the other people that did speak this week, which was just a technician from FTX, he stated that FTX, I mean, we're talking about crypto security. We're talking about people that own billions of dollars. You know, one stage this company is worth $36 billion. And they just stored their crypto keys in plain text on easily accessible unlocked files. So I can now believe that a hack was quite easy. You just get access to the file, you know what it is, and then you just move the hot wallet stuff a little bit later on. But this is the level of sophistication we were apparently dealing with the second largest exchange. And then that same person mentioned that nearly $2 million worth of funds were lost through mismanagement. There was $100 million funds that were lost. $100 million funds which were lost through fake Google phishing links. I mean, Jesus, that is. And then 40 million through sort of yield farming gone wrong, and then sort of the rest were accounted because Sam was just apparently someone that wanted to try and stretch out too far, too fast, and just trying to have his finger in every pie possible, and but not seeing everything through, and so it was going there. That's kind of it with the end of the second week. In terms of how long we got to go, I think the prosecution think that they will go into next week, and then the defense think they'll need a week and a half. So we're probably looking end of the very first week of November. So I think that's like Friday the 5th or something like that. It might be a little bit later. Monday the 7th or something is when they think that the case will wrap up and effectively the jury will then be sent away. So probably early November. We'll get some sort of indication if we're coming close to an end, and then however long it takes them to deliberate where it is. But as I mentioned last week, this is only case 1 of 2. So we've got another one in March, so we'll see. But I'll keep you updated. Okay, Bijan, qualified people with good qualifications at fancy universities and still corrupt as shit. Wow, yeah. What's that thing they've got in America? That it might have in the UK. Is it like tenure? That's it, isn't it? Where you basically can't get sacked. Maybe they got that. Maybe. I don't know how that works. Just tell them that the head and shoulders look the same as a cock and balls. If that's for the Thai prostitutes, then yep, spot on. All this doesn't bode well for long-term adoption. I think it's going to scare people off. I do think that this is not coordinated. We're not, the mainstream aren't getting a lot of this information because we're focusing a lot on Israel and Gaza and Palestine and that. So that's kind of blocking this. You don't see this in the news at the moment. You did it for the first day, but it's kind of dropped away now. So maybe a lot of retail might just be blasé to this. A bit like how most people don't know about Mt. Gox. Just it was a thing that happened. We were there for it. We're interested in it. These exchanges are corrupt as shit. They are, and I forgot to look at it and check it out. But I recently read somewhere, I don't know, I need it verifying. We know we need to verify it. I'm sure Kraken have applied for some sort of stock market license. That kind of makes me feel that they are jumping through some serious hoops, if that is true. And so maybe we have got a genuinely legitimate one there. I mean, they've been around since 2013, and they do a lot of auditing, 6-monthly audits, and that. They seem to be very upfront. So they're one that I'm a big fan of. But a lot of the other ones, which is why we don't keep our money on it. We use them, we abuse them, we move on. The longer this goes on for, the more people it put off. I think there's a lot of people that just won't be aware of it, or they just don't care. I care because I find it interesting. I think it's going to make a great movie when it comes out, especially the fall, and the trial's not the interesting bit. My family members completely put off by crypto due to FTX. Well, my family were always anti it. I mean, my dad's a little bit open-minded. He'd never do it himself. He just want me to do it. But yeah, whenever I start talking about it now, they sort of mention this failed FXX or whatever they come up with from last year. Jonah Hill would make a great SBF, absolutely. But who would make a good Caroline? So I didn't mention this, but it has come out as part of the testimony. There was another person that came on who worked for Alameda Research. I don't know what her name was. Here we go. Drappy, but what's her first name? Christian Drappy. They were what I'm looking for. I don't know. What am I trying to say? Basically, there's a secret recording of Caroline explaining to the Alameda staff just prior to the collapse what's gone on and what's been happening. And someone had the foresight to record it. It's 57 minutes long, so I'm not necessarily playing it for you, but I'll link this website, and it's got it here, and you can just play it. And I only even got 36 minutes through. The sound's quite quiet on it because it's really a secret recording, probably in someone's pocket. So just, maybe there's a cleaner version out there somewhere. But if you're interested, this lady, when she's in court, she was explaining that Caroline was a bit of a nervous wreck going through it, which you could imagine that being. But yeah, and then this was it. I've opened up a few articles just trying to find if I could find a recording of it here. But I found a recording of it here. Have a listen to it if that is of interest to you. I've not quite finished it yet myself. But there's nothing in it that is earth shattering. It's just more the cringeworthiness of having to listen to someone fumble around in the dark trying to justify their actions, which some people say is inexcusable. Okay, right. We got to where we are with that. So what time are we on? 9 o'clock. Not too bad. Right, let's have a quick look at some of the Avenger questions. They're all to do with hardware wallets. So well done, Richard and Kevin, for getting together and having a quick think about those. So, Harry, what's the most secure way to store your BTC? On a Trezor for me, because I do have a ledger, but I just prefer using the Trezor. Do you use your Trezor? Yes, I do. If so, can you quickly explain how you do it? And if you've ever run into any issues updating the software? I did it once and thought I'd lost everything, but needed to re-add all my wallets, etc., which luckily I'd written down in my notes, the public addresses. The public address wouldn't have helped you. What you hopefully wrote down were your private keys. But I get what you're trying to say there. So yeah, let's have a look. I got my Trezor plugged in. So Trezor Suite. Just gotta load it up. Oh, look at this. Update available. Well, I'll tell you what, let's just hit the update whilst we're doing it. So this happens quite a bit. You get the software update and you get the firmware update. So if we just hit update, let's just see how slow my it is. Okay. Verifying the signature. Let's just restart an update, shall we? Hopefully it didn't. Oh no, let's just say no. I don't want it to restart my computer. But we're just not gonna. We'll just I just had visions that actually it might shut down the whole computer, and then I'd be in trouble. Okay, so I'm just gonna actually hit not now, but you just hit update and then off you go. So I'm just gonna log on. So obviously you need to have your Trezor plugged into your PC when you're doing it. So just on mine, I just got to enter my code, and this is just a 4-digit code to get access to it. Now, what you'll then be presented with is what you can see here. Now, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to open up my hidden wallet on screen to you guys. I'm sure you can understand why I wouldn't do that. So I'm going to do it with a standard wallet. But let's just talk about the hidden wallet. So the hidden wallet is you can enter a password and it will just open up a new wallet for you. Now, this is where it gets a bit weird. So let's say your password was QWERTY, as in, you know, first 6 letters on the QWERTY on the keyboard. And that would open up a hidden wallet for you, which, you know, you could access. But if by accident you hit QWERTY and then you had a 7th letter, it wouldn't say that was a fail. It would just open up a brand new wallet for you, because each time you do that, it just create, I mean, you'd have to verify it, of course, but you can just create as many hidden wallets as you would like. Because all a hidden wallet is imagine that a standard wallet has a 12-word seed phrase to get access to, like a lot of them do. I don't know why I'm looking over there. Like a lot of them do. Well, the hidden wallet is like just an extra passphrase at the end. So it already knows the first 12. You just add in a 13th, if you will, and it'll take you to that wallet. And that's exactly what you can do. So you can have as many of those as you want. And I would actually recommend, for any of you that have a large amount, to have at least 2 hidden wallets. Because, you know, you may think I'm talking, you know, total far end of the spectrum here, but hey, why not prepare for it? If someone does get access to you and your Trezor, and they're like, right, empty your wallet, then they don't know how many wallets you've got. If you've got a second one with just a little bit in it, you can just be like, look, this is all I got left. And then you just lose a portion of it rather than you going into your main wallet. Now, as I say, that might be a bit pie in the sky, but that's what I've done. I've also got business account ones. They're all on the same Trezor. They just have different wallet addresses. But I'm just going to go into the standard wallet. So you just click into the standard wallet. Now, if it's a hidden one, I would have had to verify my password. I would have then had to enter a code on my Trezor, and I would have to press a few things. So the whole point is you've got to have your Trezor device with you when you're accessing it here. And then it's just as simple as this. If you ever want to, you know, send something, you just ask for receive, show full address, and then when you want to use it, again, well, if it was on a hidden wallet, I do have to confirm it on my Trezor. I just hit confirm. It creates that address, and then that is the address that I can then go forward and use on the exchange. And you just put that in a withdrawal exchange address for BTC, and off you go, and it gets sent here. And you know, it's the most nerve-wracking 30 minutes of your life because the network's slow as anything. But it will arrive, and you can either create a different address every single time, or you can reuse addresses. Now, as long as you're in this wallet, whatever address, no matter if it's the same address or a different address, it will always end up back in this wallet. So for security, you might just think, well, I don't want to use the same address. I'd rather use a different one. So you can do that. But it is fairly simple. You can see that there are, see, I didn't verify it on my Trezor, so I got the alert saying it was cancelled. You can do Ethereum on here. Then obviously you can link your Trezor to your MetaMask, and then that would also then show you anything that you kept on the Ethereum chain would fall on this side as well. So you can get quite a bit. I mean, Trezor does hold a relatively decent amount of tokens. So if we just open up Trezor on here. So if we go to the website, and then you can go onto coins, and it'll tell you all the ones they're on and also what devices are on. I think there's a new Trezor that's come out, the Safe 3. Not looked into it, but you can just scroll down here and you can see what's available and what isn't. And yeah, it's kind of endless. Casper, see, it's here, but you can't store anything on it at the moment. Just bear that one in mind. But it also says you can either destroy, hold things either directly on the suite or via MetaMask and other options. So if it's not on this list, you can't hold it. But if it's an ERC20 token, you could then hold it on your MetaMask under the Ethereum network, and then it would be protected that way. So I know your question was about Bitcoin, but just to answer that. Oh, where were we? Yeah, good practice, obviously, to write things down. I write everything down, handwrite it down. I then put it in 3 fireproof wallets, and those fireproof wallets are in 3 separate locations. That's it. That's what I do, and that's what I've done. So I've got, one in the safe in my house, one in the safe in another person's house, and one in the safe in another country, just because if I'm ever over there and I forget them and I need access, then I've got it. Right. Richards then asked, sorry, how do you store your DOT? As I don't think it can be stored in Trezor. No, it can't be stored in Trezor, and at the moment also can't be stored on MetaMask. So where do I store mine? Well, I use a thing called the Fearless wallet. So it's a mobile wallet. I just store mine on there, and I can do my staking on it. So that's what I use. You can use your ledger. So if you do have a ledger, you can use that. You can actually stake directly from your ledger as well. So you do that, or you could go to, if you're feeling lucky, the polkadot.js. So this is like the web wallet, if you will. And you can do it through here. Now, have a look at different wallets on here. And you can just set one up. Have I got some on here now? I thought I did. I was like, what the hell? And then you can just create a wallet through the account section. This is not a user-friendly way of doing it, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But yeah, you can create an account through here, and you can transfer Polkadot onto that. I personally just do it through Fearless. I've moved stuff forward and back on there. It's not necessarily been a problem. It is on my mobile, but it's an element of risk with that. But you still get your private keys that you can write down, and then if you ever get a new mobile, you can just type those in and off you go again. So hope that one helps anyway. And then Kevin's put, are there any safe hardware wallets available to support Casper? I found the Tangent wallet, but I'm not sure if this is a secure option. I've not heard of the Tangent wallet, so Tangent. Okay. Same as a bank card. So sorry, it's a bit silent here. But I just read at the same time. I was hoping it would. Okay, the chip in the card generates a random private key, which never gets exposed. The card establishes a secure connection with each other and transfers your encrypted keys. Ask for backup. Okay. So, I mean, this one doesn't look too bad. I mean, from what I can see, it is an app-based storage device, but it looks like you get a physical card that needs to be present for it. Now, I don't know how that works, whether it's because it says it's like a bank card. So I honestly don't know if it's like a contactless connection that you just have to put it close to. Yeah, it says simply tap the card. So as long as you got that card there, it will grant you access to it. That seems relatively secure. My only concern with that is that I like my Trezor because I don't have to walk in and around with it. So if I did have that, I wouldn't be putting it in my wallet. That's for certain. But yeah, I've never used it. I'd be happy to have a little bit of a look into it. I don't see the need for me necessarily to buy one, but this one doesn't seem too bad. Now, in terms of what you can establish on it, I honestly don't know. You said that they do Casper, so hopefully you found that from somewhere. I'm not aware of anywhere else. I am aware that they are trying to create access via Ledger. Now that's been going since I think last December. But I remember on one of Siam's Twitter spaces, talking to the developer. I think that's still definitely on the cards, and they're just working with Ledger about that. So if you've got a Ledger, which is obviously it is cheaper than a Trezor, then that's going to be an option for you. As you can see, when I'm on my desktop, I've just got a desktop wallet now. I actually don't have any Casper at the moment because I sold mine a week or so ago. But I'm all right just using the desktop wallets for now because I'm nowhere near as invested as a lot of you guys are. So I think Tangent looks good. Happy to look into it a little bit more, but you just got to bear in mind that it is access with your mobile. So that is a good and a bad thing. Can only really get at this on my PC, so it's got to be deliberate movements for me. I'm sure sometime during the bull run I'll regret that, but it is where it is. Okay. no other questions at the moment. Right then, let's just get moving into what's happening with Bitcoin. So we're on the daily now. We can see that move up that happened. That's on the weekly, sorry, yesterday. Now what that done? It's not taking out any high. It kind of on the weekly got above the 50 EMA cloud, rejected back into it. And it's still looking like there's that potential head and shoulders. I mean, I know talked about it, but I know my worrying thing now is I'm seeing a lot of people talking about this, but we've definitely got that sort of element of a left shoulder and a head. Whether or not this is the right shoulder, that's the question, isn't it? And what happened yesterday hasn't invalidated that. That's still certainly on the cards. If we just go into the daily, let's just get rid of these now. Oops. We do. I mean, head and shoulders is still there. But yesterday's move, I mean, you look at what happened preceding it. So we bust through the 50, through the cloud. We kind of even got above the 200, but we were rejected. Maybe that's the 800 actually. Back down into it. But now we've broken well above that little bit of noise here. And we've managed to close. Now, what we didn't clear, I mean, yes, I know we wicked into it, but I'm talking about a close here, is look where it stopped. Right at this level of noise. Let me just close these down. I should just have the clean chart open. But right at that previous level of noise, where it got to, and it came back down. So, the euphoria took it there, but even after the euphoria died off, we're now struggling to get above that level, which again is interesting. Are we now getting to that peak of that head? And that shoulder. And, if you look at this left shoulder from where it started, it was 3 months for it to form. And they don't have to be symmetrical. I'm just giving you an idea of just because it hasn't happened in 2 weeks doesn't mean anything. We're only talking about 2 months at the moment, so there's still even more potential than that. But you could easily see it taking 3 months to get up and down because it's a daily candle, it's a daily head and shoulders. So yeah, we just got to wait for that to sort of play out. Now, I don't think anything for me has really changed. In terms of where I was last week with the M's and W's, we're still in that consolidation sort of period. Yep, the wick's gone up, but it didn't take anything particularly out. And the daily has come back down, and we're still in this sort of slightly rising channel. Just waiting for that move back down. So it's potentially there, and any move that does come back down, would likely at least form the right shoulder. Whether or not it follows through for the action after breaking a neckline. Unfortunately, we just have to wait and see. But one of the things that we've been looking at, and I've just put this on the 3-day just so I can zoom in for you, and you can see it instead of being tiny. It was just these previous levels. So the tops. So obviously we've had W in January, and at the top of that rally was around about 25,000. It fell back down to 20,000. Now I used to have this. Oops, not like that. I used to have this a lot bigger. Down to there, but I've kind of just moved it just to take in these little bits here. Now on the daily, it looks a little bit better. It's just because I've changed the 3-day. And then we've got this level of 22,000 as well, which seems important. Well, why are they on there? Well, it's just, what could happen if we do lose, this head and shoulders does form, we do lose. Now, annoyingly, these wicks don't quite go down to that level, and I can move this up now and be like, oh yeah, look at that's perfect. But that was how it was left, so that's where we are with it. But you can kind of see it's coming down to here, and it's finding its bounce off those. So whenever it does come back down, that's where we've got it. But let's just do the old classic. Well, if it is a head and shoulders, what's the potential level of the move? So if we go from the top of the head, we just do body to the neckline. We take this back down, and bang, that takes you back to this 20,000 level. That whole move up there is what we would then see come back here. So I might be talking worst case here, but there's certainly a narrative that could be argued for 20k outside of my views on the fact that we're already in a drop one. We've had drop one, on the daily, and we've got a drop two and potentially a drop three to come. So there's definitely an opportunity for the 20,000 there. But if we also take fib levels, and you know I love to draw them, have a look at this move up here to the tops. And suddenly we can see actually this is bouncing off the 0.5. So this wasn't, you know, that was where I had it, but it has hit this 0.5 on both of those occasions. It's come back and it's played quite nicely at the moment between the 0.5 and the 0.382. Where are some of the other levels of interest? Well, there's this one here, the 786, the 618, which I love. That's a great level. I think it's, you know, certainly on the cards. That could just be, we get down here. I'm more thinking about levels if this has become a head and shoulders. And we've certainly got this level here, the 786 at 22,000, smack bang in the middle of this price. If I just get rid of this one, and okay, well, let's have a look at this move from down here. And suddenly, I mean, it's probably how I formed these levels in the first place, if I'm honest. But those levels are starting to match up. And so suddenly, actually, the 0.5 is really playing in with the 22, which is what we had before. It was ranging from 22 dead to 22.7. Well, this one's more now at 22.3 down to around about 21.8. But, you know, still within that vicinity. We've also got the 382, which is the neckline that we're talking about. But now the 618, the level that I love the most, is back at the 20K level, right smack in the area in the zone we were talking about. So, you know, there's definitely an opportunity there for this to happen. And I think we've got to be aware of it, but we also got to say, well, wait a second. We saw what happened yesterday with fake news account of an ETF. The next time we might get an announcement on the ETF is January, beginning of January, which is what, 70 odd days, 75 days away. So, you know, could we see actually a drift down within a bounce back up? And absolutely, and we may not get all of these levels, but if we do start to see in the next month or so, they start to head back down to 25,500, and I think we're going to have to question whether or not this is a genuine head and shoulders here. Look where it's going. And you could take it a step further, even just having a look at these. You know, this was a huge move up, very powerful, very successful. We pulled back down, we consolidated. Another incredibly strong move up, which consolidated. We've pulled down. This one's not been as powerful, you know, only just eclipsed it. And then ever since then, we've just been falling away. And we've been, you know, really struggling to find any kind of level of sustained volume to pull us upwards. I mean, you could argue and pull us downwards as well, which is why we found ourselves ranging for the last 6 months. But yeah, that's certainly what I'm looking at with Bitcoin. The problem when we start going down onto the lower levels is obviously what happened yesterday. What I will say, so this is the hourly at the moment. Should have looked at this beforehand. What can we really see? I mean, seems to be some sort of bottoming pattern that's happened here. It's almost like an inverted Bart Simpson. The only problem was this was a bit of a staggered drop. This one was a decent drop up. But you can actually see on the hourly the level of the moves that happened prior to the fake news. So, you know, we had this move up over the weekend. And I thought, right, okay, early into Monday morning, Asia closing. Are we going to have this move out with Asia? And then we'll get some sort of reversal. Well, continuation with London and then a reversal in New York, and it didn't really happen like that. You know, we had that spike. I mean, that's an abnormality, but this has continued to climb. It's been a continuation through London, but then New York didn't reverse it. All it did was just sort of, you know, find this holding pattern. It's pretty choppy. I mean, you could argue we're getting some sort of, a long way off that, but at the moment, that choppiness is definitely there. But what for me I'm seeing is it's just ranging, and I don't know whether we've got a sort of a topping pattern here, where it's just sort of ranging in there, or this is a genuine bullish channel, and then we've got another move up. And that then takes us back to what we talked about last week when we go back to the daily and we say, you know what, guys, I was wrong. We still haven't seen Rise 3, or we still haven't seen the second side of the M, and that's still to come. And if that's the case, then, you know, this would be the M that I'm talking about. That's it. And then the second side before the fall, and we're actually, you know, 3 months further down before we see any real movement. So that certainly could be there. But even that bull flag, it's not taken us out of this zone. It's only taken us to 30k. So yeah, it's been a bit crap, unfortunately, hasn't it? We've ranged for so long with such low volume and arguably some low interest that we're just seeing a lot more 50-50 plays. And so I can only give you both sides of what it is. It's just my opinion of it. You may argue I'm sitting on the fence, but that's just where I see it. My attitude still hasn't really changed with, I'm wanting to make that move into try and take advantage of this Halloween effect we talked about last week. And so, yeah, I will be buying more Bitcoin. I feel like now is the time to just sort of move more into Bitcoin and maybe overexpose myself into Bitcoin, because I actually have a decent sized holding of that already, but have some that I'm then ready to convert, take advantage of. We'd have a look at dominance a little bit later on. So that's kind of where I was thinking with that. I mean, DOT's still looking ugly. We've got some unlocks for DOT soon. A lot of the parachains are coming towards the end. I can't tell you where it's going to go in terms of, are people going to sell? I think people would be foolish to sell. That's my honest opinion, because of where the price is at the moment. Parachains were locking up in around $48 plus. We're at less than $4 now. So to get your coins back and then be like, you know what, I'm going to sell at a 95% loss, just doesn't feel like the right move to me. But hey, retail are there to surprise me all the time. But we do have rather large unlockings of a lot of the original parachains coming. So we could see some selling, and we could see that selling also on the native tokens as well, the likes of Glimmer, Aster, a few of the others. So just bear that one in mind. We have been down this level before and we've seen a bounce. That's on the hourly. Let's get a bit more realistic. 4 hour. So again, is this, we don't know yet, part of a W, or it was a dead cat bounce. It's further falling. We're at the level which that decision is going to be made. But we're in that buy zone I talked about of sort of like 380 down to about 365. So we're kind of at the bottom of that. And that states all the way back, as you know. Stick on the weekly for that. Back to these levels down here. And, we're talking about inception time now. And after that was the day it launched. So we will be in. I don't count that candle. There's no way of knowing where we're going after that. Anyway, Casper's done well. Where's my old chart? Not there. So we had drawn. We had this. That's what we were drawing from the wicks point of view. And then if we try and do from the bodies, I think he took it from here. No, maybe not. Maybe not. How did I do I'm sure there was a body one. I had one on this chart. Oh, it's not there. Which had it touching where we are at the moment. I don't know how I've drawn that. Because what I'm looking at sort of like how it reacts to this. But if you go onto the linear chart, which I know a lot of you use, there was this level here, and I know a lot of you were talking about the bounce, and it's bounced very nicely off that level. So it's a great level to buy in at and bounce from there. And where it is, yeah, this is what I was looking at. So I sold last week, as you know. I take Casper, actually, it curses me because I had my buy levels in here and it didn't get any, kind of just meandered off it and went, and that was very reminiscent of when it did it at 11 down here. But it is where it is. I got out in the 5, so it's still opportunity for me. Just want to see how it's done. I always say that and then it just missed the move, but we're kind of close to where I got out of, so I might as well just see how it reacts at the top of this channel. But it has had that nice bounce, and that bounce was needed because I lost to that one and we would have been looking certainly, I think, down here. And it's kind of doing what it does in terms of it's outperforming the rest of the market at the moment. Red day for a lot of other ones, but this one is putting currently a 6% day, so good to see. Now I don't have it on there, I see someone else, but the RSI was massively oversold, like on the bottom oversold down here. So we were expecting some sort of pump up. But, again, what we need to see is it breaking out of this level. Otherwise, we're just in that range again. So, yeah. Ethereum, unfortunately, is looking weak. And it just has been. Any kind of impulse, any kind of move up is just swiftly met with selling. And even yesterday's, it's not managed to stick the landing, like a lot of alts. And it's unlike Bitcoin, which is the opposite, really. It's climbing up. This one's falling away. And I think that's just a very realistic sense of where dominance is at the moment. I'm not really going to bother going through many of the other ones. A lot of these ones, as I mentioned, sold my BNC, sold the eGold, one it used to be called the Metaverse X, sold OKB. That's a shame because that one's gone up. That one's well above what I sold it at the moment. Sold my quants, and that's it. I'll sold my link. So they will be. I've got the allocations. I'll be buying back in with those allocations at levels. So I'm just leaving them in that pot there. This one here, there's not really too much to go on. Total. I'm sure I had a chart which had all this stuff on, and I left it. I'm sure I did it even last week because I was upset that it kept on deleting. But I'll draw it again. Total for me, that's what I'm looking to try and break. I'm going to be really worried. So under $1 trillion, and then realistically at the moment, I mean. I think last week I actually had it higher than that, but that's probably its an initial level. Yeah, I think it was this one, which is where we can start to get excited. But that feels a long way off at the moment. Unfortunately, that's another 200 billion into the market, which is some ask, unfortunately. So we're just kind of ranging within that. I'm happy that we're at 50% between these two, but there's nothing really to write home about at the moment. What I would say, I suppose, is it is creating a nice sort of structure in terms of a base for support later on down the line, but it doesn't mean that we can't lose it. And obviously, if that's the case, 730 has got to be the absolute low. Any break of that, and we're in trouble. But the other bit I'd be looking at would be this one here, and then total 3. I think total 3 is kind of it's almost in a better position because it's been starved so badly anyway. But this one really is just sat in the middle, and it's just been doing its thing for months now in terms of just where it's going. So that loss of 285, which I've talked about before, 300 really, it closed below the 300. I think we're going to get pretty nervous. But even a move down to there, that loss of 20 odd billion out of the altcoin market, unless it's all coming out of Ethereum, which I doubt it will, these prices here are going to fall pretty hard. But that's what we expect. And, I'm made my bed and line. I'm happy that I've bought in some of these positions here. And come 2025, hopefully, I won't be feeling so bad about them. So, yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, actually, I'm looking to sell some of my silver, so that's just why I'm watching silver at the moment. That's had a fairly good move up. And gold, it's not on this one for some reason, but gold's also another good move up. I mean, silver's kind of in that range where it's got to think about what it's doing. It was falling away, and I think the conflict that we had or having in Israel and Palestine just kind of helped push that one back up. Gold was very similar, but it's got a bit of work to do. I'd like to see, it try and stick and hold this level and then build off that. Or at least it's got back up above that level there. And then one last thing just to look at, I think, is going to be Bitcoin dominance. So continuing its climb. We're at where we were in June, so 52%. We had a nice fall from that one there, but let's just put this on the 3 days so it's a bit more manageable. I mean, after that, this is it. We're looking at the 60 level, which last time we were there was September 20. Oh, no, sorry. Of course it wasn't. It was April the 1st, 21. So So just before the first peak back in 2021. So yeah, and you can kind of see from this, this is no surprise that that's a level that it's sticking at the moment. Bear in mind it's a 3-day as well, but it's coming in and around from all of this price there. And as I said last time, it bounced from it, but it's having another bite of the cherry. What would be worrying is if it did break down, we've got to then consider whether or not it is 2 peaks. There and there with the neckline. I say worry, this is dominance we're talking about here. So I say altcoin, I don't necessarily see that, I'll be honest. I think we can see Bitcoin run a bit higher. Whether we get to 60, I mean, I said whether we get to 50 and we hit it, so what do I know? 60, yeah, we can. Whether we get to 70 does honestly feel like a push, as close as we are to the bull run. Like, you think all the way through 2019, or the back end of 2019, we were already in the 70s. And then we got into 2020 and we're leading up towards a halving, and we started to see that fall away. And then the halving happened, was it in May? And then it fell away. Whereas, we are close. We are where we were here. Does that make sense? Like, this period of time running up to the halving is this period of time now. And so for it to then get up to 70, which is a hell of a long run where it is before the halving, it just feels like that's a bit of a big ask, in my opinion. But yeah, I can see Bitcoin gaining momentum towards a halving. Of course, it did exactly the same here, because people are aware of what the power of the halving happens, and then they cash in the months after that, and then it drops away. So I can definitely see some sort of movement, but 20% or just under 20% movement feels quite a big ask. Anyway, that's just my thoughts. Just some admin for next week. So I'm not here next week, so there will be no call, but I'm going to do 2 research videos for you. I've actually already filmed one, Moonwell. So that one's in the can. I'm going to release that next week, beginning of next week. And then I asked others for some options, and actually OXO, it's not actually called OXO, I just call it OXO. A couple of people asked for that one, which is oxo.ai. So it's 0x0, not O. So I'm going to film that one tomorrow, and then that'll come out next week as well. So this is Moonwell, in case you're interested in it. It is a DeFi protocol based on it's not just on Moonbeam, it's also on Moonriver and Coinbase's base network. But you'll see all that in the video. And then 0x0 is an AI privacy token. And this has got some popularity at the moment. This one is, since September, it's 3x'd. So I can see why people are asking for this one. I don't know anything about it. I'm going to learn about it all tomorrow. But the fact it has climbed as well as it has done, it's quite reminiscent of Casper's reluctance to follow the rest of the altcoin market into oblivion. So this might be why people are interested. But it isn't going to come out for another 10 days. So God knows what the price might be by then. But I will film it and then I'll get it out for you. But yeah, that's kind of it for me. As I say, I'm trying to keep these down, so just over an hour and a half at the moment. But there's not really any other questions. But if anyone has anything, let us know. Yeah, that's it. Well, God knows what will happen. Thank God that fake news happened yesterday. This was old Avenger calls. Then that would have happened during the call. Oh, a bit of geek trivia, because I know the whole reason we're called the Avengers is Sam likes his Marvel and his MCU characters. So here's a little geek fact for you. So Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr., his character, he died in the MCU today, 17th of October 2023. That's where he died in Endgame. So there you go. Little nod to Iron Man there on behalf of Sam. It doesn't look like anyone's got any other questions, so I think we'll just leave it at that. Just say thanks a lot, guys, for tuning in. Nothing next week. Well, you have the research videos next week, but no live. And I'll be back the Tuesday after that, which I think is Halloween. I might actually have to change that day because I got 2 kids, and no doubt they'll want to be trick-or-treating. But I will be back that week at some stage. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will speak to you all soon. Cheers now.